Hey guys, Toast here. Welcome to another episode of Custom Kit. This is a series where you get to select every facet of a custom kit, including primary weapon, secondary, grenades, gadgets, and melee, and I'll discuss the different components, my preconceptions prior to using the kit, and then my experiences after having used it. Today's custom kit is courtesy of I Was Fatboy Games, who submitted the NOOO Please Dice No kit, although there's actually a couple more no's after the name in the original post. I Was Fatboy Games wrote, "NOOO Please Dice No. Primary weapon MP18 Experimental, secondary weapon Gasser M1870, Gadget 1 AT Mines, Gadget 2 Dynamite, Grenade Impact, melee weapon Shovel. You're a new soldier, but you realize that you can respawn and live the hell that is the war forever and ever and ever. So why not have some fun and push your skills to the limit on the battlefield?" Not only is it enough for someone to post a kit as cruel as this one, but it also says a lot about how much you guys want to see me suffer based on the fact that this was one of the most upvoted and commented on kits. Honestly, you guys can just come right out and say that you like inflicting mental and emotional pain on me. You've actually made that very clear. To say that I had lacked the desire to do this kit would be a gross understatement. But as always, let's first discuss each of the different components of the kit and how each one influenced my tactics going into this. Beginning with the MP18 Experimental variant. The MP18 in general is actually a really solid weapon for the assault class despite it being a starting weapon. In fact, the trench variant is one of my go-to weapons along with the ribby roll for most situations. The above average muzzle velocity for an SMG, larger than average magazine size, and great hipfire spread for the trench variant make it a very usable hipfire weapon for close to medium range. The optical variant loses that really solid hipfire but gives you additional benefits to ADS spread, particularly while on the move. It isn't one of my favorites because, as I've mentioned before, I don't really like optical sights in this game, but it's certainly usable. The experimental variant has better horizontal recoil, a very slight increase to ADS spread while standing still, and better spread decrease. As you're also likely aware, it is burst fire, which means that in order to attain the same rate of fire as the other two automatic variants, you have to repeatedly press the button or key, which can make for a more difficult experience for some. But in addition to that, the variant has a longer long reload for a reason I can't quite discern. This means that to really make the most of the weapon, you need to be standing still and aim down sights while pressing the trigger fast enough to match the rate of fire of the other two variants. That wouldn't really be an issue with a longer range weapon, but on PC at least, standing still in close to medium range where the weapon is at its best is essentially a death sentence on most maps. I knew I really had to try to pick my targets carefully, flank when possible to get the upper hand, and try my best to maintain my accuracy while constantly having to click the trigger. To back that up, the Gasser M1870 is certainly one of the more controversial secondary weapons for the assault class. It's very powerful with a maximum damage of 53 and has a surprisingly good minimum damage of 21, but it has a very high vertical recoil and the reload requires that every round be reloaded individually, which given the pre-reload delay, post-reload delay, and per bullet reload, can put you out of commission for almost 9 seconds if fully empty. Not a good thing if you've run out of primary ammo. I knew it really had to be a last resort if I needed to reload the MP18 Experimental, and if I completely ran out of ammo with the MP18, I needed to try to find another kit on the ground. Moving on to gadgets, when it comes to the assault class, I tend to run the AT rocket gun and AT grenades to give myself a little bit of distance between me and the target, but considering I was running the AT Mines and Dynamite, distance wasn't really going to be an option. With the AT Mines, I had to try to set and forget them since reactively using them often ends in death. And as for Dynamite, I've never really been good at getting the hang of using it well for AT purposes, so I planned on using it for anti-infantry more frequently. All told, I was expecting a lot of frustration, swearing, and money spent on therapy to help me get through these dark times. Now that's what I was anticipating based on the components of the kit, but how did it end up playing out? Well, I'll say this, it wasn't quite as terribly painful as I was expecting it to be, but it certainly wasn't enjoyable. The MP18 Experimental, while not as good for me personally as the trench or optical, did well enough at its job to secure me kills when I needed them. I definitely missed the hipfire accuracy of the trench, but I found that in close range the hipfire of the Experimental was decent enough to get the job done, but I still don't find the weapon accurate enough while aiming down sight with the burst fire. I was able to get kills, but I found myself draining my magazine more frequently than with other variants. In all honesty, with weapons like the Ribby Roll and Hellriegel available, I'm not entirely sure why people would gravitate toward the MP18 Experimental. Yes, I realize that there are people out there who really like this weapon, some of whom may even be watching this video. And there's nothing wrong with that. The weapon just doesn't work well for me and many of my friends with whom I've had conversations about it. I did find myself appreciative of the power of the Gasser M1870, and it came in handy a few times when I needed to reload my primary but I wasn't in a good spot, but I was always anxious to go back to my primary as soon as possible lest I be stuck with that terrible reload. It did what I needed it to do, and thankfully I didn't find myself stuck with just the Gasser, but it certainly isn't a secondary I would willingly pick for just about any loadout. As for gadgets, I was able to secure the odd AT mine kill with the set and forget method, which was definitely rewarding, but I found myself at a noticeable disadvantage more than just a couple times, when I would have had a much better opportunity to take out enemy armor with the AT rocket gun or AT grenades. As for dynamite, I used it very infrequently and pretty much only against infantry because in order to use it against vehicles, you either have to set it and watch it in order for it to detonate at the appropriate time, find a vehicle that's completely stationary, or bait a vehicle toward you so that you can detonate it before they get to you, which really only works with transport vehicles. All told, I don't really intend on using any aspect of this kit in any sort of regular rotation, so I hope you guys enjoyed watching my pain. Thank you again to Iowa's Fatboy Games for submitting this custom kit, and if you'd like to see one of your own custom kits featured on a future episode of the series, please leave a comment below with the details of the kit, and I'll select one for the next episode. If you submitted one on a previous video that didn't get picked, please know that they're still in the running, but always feel free to suggest a different one as well. If you see a kit in the comments that you think is interesting, please leave a thumbs up on it. As always, if you liked the video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more content, please subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, this is Toast, and I'll talk to you soon.